We deal with objects constantly on a daily basis. In fact, we do so we don't even think about it. This cup of coffee next to me is an object. So is this glass of water, the microphone I'm speaking to, the phone that's ringing in the background. These are objects that we use on a daily basis. Many years ago, somebody had the idea of representing objects within our code. This is how object-oriented programming came about, and JavaScript is an object-oriented language. So in order to get the most out of the language, we need to know how to use its object-oriented design. In this lesson, we will write an application that displays the user's name along with today's date. We are going to use an array as well as a date object, and we will be using a method of the string object as well. Now, the first thing that we need to write is a function called getMonthName. Now remember that the date object doesn't give us the name of the month, it just gives us the number associated with that date. So we have created an array called months. We are using array literal notation, and we are specifying each month of the year as an element in this array. January is at index 0, and December is at index 11. So whenever we call this function, we are going to pass a value as index. And if index is between 1 or 0 or 11, then we will get one of the values listed within this array here. So if we pass in 7, we will actually get the month of August because we are using index notation to get the 7th index in the months array, which is August. So the next thing that we need to write is a function to abbreviate these names. We could put these in as abbreviated months, but it makes our code a little bit more flexible if we put them in as their full names and then abbreviate them later, because we can always not abbreviate them and we wouldn't have to change much of our code. So this function is going to be called ABBR, short for abbreviate, name. It's going to accept one argument, which we will call text. And we are going to use the text.substr. Since it's the same name as the substring method, I would just rather say substr. This will allow us to get a substring of the text that we provide here. We are going to start at the first character with the index of 0, and then we are going to get 3 characters. So we will get a JAN in the case of January. For September, we would get SEP. For February, we would get FEB. Okay, so the next thing that we need to get is today's date. And we are going to call this variable date. We are going to use the new operator, and then we are going to call the date constructor. So we are creating a new date object and assigning it to the date variable here. Okay, so we have our date, which is one of the pieces of information that we really needed to display a message to the user. And we're going to use everything else here kind of as support for that. So now we need to construct the actual message that we want to display to the user. Now we can do that by taking different parts and concatenating them together, but that's really inefficient. The more parts that you have in a string concatenation, the less efficient it gets. So we can actually make our code efficient by using an array and storing each part of the message as an element in the array, and then calling the join method to join those together. So I'm going to create a variable called message parts. It's actually going to be an array. Now we could use array, the array constructor here, but it's better to use just the array literal notation. And the first piece of our message is going to be hello, comma, and then space. Now remember, we have to do our own formatting. It's not going to do formatting for us. Next, we are going to call the prompt function, and it is going to prompt the user to enter their name. Now, if you look down here at IntelliSense, it knows that we are calling prompt, and it's giving us kind of a prompt as to what we put here. We have a message here, and then whenever we hit comma, then def str for default string is going to be in bold. So we will put the same thing here. Now, before we move on here, let's just see what this is going to do. Whenever we are constructing this array, JavaScript is going to execute this prompt function while it's building this array. So this is going to display a prompt to the user, and whatever they type into this prompt box is going to be put inside of this element here. So this, we could create a variable and then call prompt up here. That would probably actually be a better way to do it, but I wanted to demonstrate how we can execute a function as an element in an array and store that value as that element. Okay, so next we need another string literal, a period to end that sentence, and then today is, and then we are going to get today's date. Now this is a rather complex statement, so we are going to write it all out, and then I will explain it. Date and then get month. Okay, so might be better if we format this a little bit easier. Now what this does is this date get month gets executed first, and it's going to get today's month, and it's going to return a number associated with today's month. Today is October 1st, so it's going to return 9, because remember, we start at 0. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, October. So this is going to return the number 9, and it's going to pass 9 to get month name. That will then execute get month name. It will get this 9th element within the months array, and it will return October. And as it does so, it will pass October to this abbreviate name function, which will then execute, and then it will return the first 3 characters of the string. So we're kind of doing the same thing as we did with prompt here. We are executing several functions in this case, however, and storing that value as the 0, 1, 2, 3rd or 4th element at the 3rd index of the array. Okay, so next we just need an empty string, and then we need a comma followed by a space. I'm sorry, this is not an empty string, this is actually a space there. And then we need to get the year, so we'll call get full year of the date object, and that will be the last element in this array. So the last thing that we need to do then is call alert, and then we are going to call a method of the array object. So we'll do message parts join, and then we need to specify an empty string here. If we omitted this empty string, it would actually join these elements together, but it would put a comma in between each element, and that would really look bad. So we want to put an empty string here so that we are joining these by empty strings. And then whenever we execute this, we'll get a nicely formatted message. So I will put my name, and hello Jeremy, today is October, and our day is not showing up. Why is that? That's because we omitted that. I'm sorry. So we'll call get date. This will put the day of the month, actually the number of the day of the month. So let's go back and let's refresh. And once again, we get another error. And that's because I did not put a comma after get date. Once again, I apologize. And our script is running fantastic. And there we go. Hello, Jeremy. Today is October 1st of 2010. So that is object-oriented programming with JavaScript. And we are going to look at more object-oriented programming as we write our own data types in Lesson 8.